Well, our special guest has arrived.
How's it going, guys?
Doing well. How about you, sir?
Good, good.
Happy to be here. Happy divisional playoff weekend day thingamajig, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, playoff eve here.
Playoff
Divisional
Eve.
playoff eve.
Yes.
Thing
We
of beauty,
appreciate-
right?
Yes. Thing of beauty. It's going to be nice weather in Kansas City. It's going to be a perfect day to run the ball and upset the defending champs. That's what I think.
I like the way you talk.
Mm-hmm. So, for those listeners, this is Chris McNeil. He's of course, the iconic McNeil Twitter handle for Northeast Ohio sports fans. He is the organizer of the infamous 0-16 Browns Parade. He's also the host of the Big Play Reflog Show. And I just got to ask you, I'll just start off some of the questions I have for you. What do you think about the matchup against Kansas City? Because some people could look at it on paper and say, oh, the Browns don't have a shot. But after last week, I'm saying to myself, this team, if they play like that every week, they can compete with anybody and even win a championship. I can't believe I'm saying that. But what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. As far as on paper goes, this isn't one of those matchups where you look at it and go, boy, I really like the Browns' chances in this one. But you got to think about the momentum that we've got right now, right? I mean, the Browns haven't made the playoffs for years. Made it once since we've been back, and we had that unfortunate drop by Dennis Northcutt. And you look at the momentum. This team, despite not having their coach last week, not having key players, were able to upset the Pittsburgh Steelers in their house. This isn't a team that was just happy to be there in the playoffs. This is a team that clearly thinks that this is their rightful spot and they're playing to win. And that's, everybody says that they play to win, but then you look at their actual performance on the field and you say, man, these Browns are hungry. Are really hungry. They don't know that they shouldn't be here. They think that this is their rightful spot. And I think they're going to go into Kansas City with that same exact mentality. You're getting back your head coach. You're getting back some key pieces. So sure, on paper, you say, boy, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to run an offense that is just going to be able to slaughter this Cleveland Browns defense based upon what we've seen. But then you actually watch the Browns performance from last week. You see what's going on. And you say, we're getting Denzel Ward back. We like some of the pieces we've got. Maybe Myles Garrett, another week removed. Now another week of kind of healing from the COVID issues he's gone through. Maybe he comes up big. Maybe we continue to have these timely turnovers that we've been getting. If all these things happen, which now I'm optimistic may happen, then the Browns have a shot. The Browns legitimately have a shot. And I never expected that I'd be sitting here saying that in January that we have a shot against Kansas City, who I think is the premier team in the AFC. And I like our chances. And I feel really good about that.
Yeah, exactly. And if I'm a better, I see the line right now. Kansas City is favored by 10, according to the Vegas, the Caesar Sportsbook. And I'm thinking to myself, the way the Browns played last week, you're telling me that Kansas City is just going to go in there and just spank them and over 10 points. If I'm a better, I'm going to take the Browns and the points, and I'm going to say the Browns going to make it a 4-quarter game. And I legitimately think with the way that the Browns have been able to run the football when they commit to it, there's some games where I've watched them and they say, oh, that's the time they need to really run and use that clock and grind away. But when they commit to running the football, they have the best running back duo in the league. And it's not like Kansas City's defense is, the 85 Bears. I mean, they are susceptible to the run, especially. And so, in the way Baker Mayfield's playing red hot, anything can happen.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the Chiefs have not blown out very many teams in certainly the back half of the season. Their last great game that they played was the first 3 quarters of Tampa Bay quite a few weeks ago, and they've just been scraping by. Mahomes has not looked like himself in some of these games. So, yeah, definitely got a shot.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of the conventional thinking, right? As if the Browns can go out and run the ball. And sometimes we get frustrated when Stefanski and crew come out and aren't necessarily doing that. But then you look back to last week and you say, okay, did we run the ball? Sure, we ran the ball, but how many yards did Nick Chubb end up with, right? So it was a consistent force, and that's good. But ultimately, for this team to win, we've got to have timely turnovers. I mean, we've got to have a defense that's able to turn over a team. It reminds me, and I've said this several times, it reminds me of the Bears back years ago when they played the Colts in the Super Bowl. They had sexy Rexy Grossman as their quarterback at that time. And that wasn't a team that was fantastic on either side of the ball. They were good defensively, and then they were very timely with turnovers. And a team like the Cleveland Browns seems to fit that mold. If we're going to go anywhere, not only do we have to run the ball, but we have to be able to turn this team over. We got to get Patrick Mahomes to make some mistakes. We got to have some guys who aren't able to do whatever they want to with the football on offense from Kansas City. We've got to be able to throw them off their game. And I think just running the ball isn't enough, that we've got to have that defensive effort. And we've got to be creative too. We've got to use that run to be able to set up some of the Jarvis Landry stuff that we've seen before. Obviously, you're going to see Hooper continue to be the safety valve, I think, continually for Baker, which is good. But I think we're going to see some more of those wrinkles come out now from Kevin Stefanski. So that's something that I'm pretty eagerly looking forward to tomorrow.
Now, let me ask you this. Or Justin, do you have a question before I'd ask mine? I don't want to hog up all your question. Is there a player on either side of the ball, or any phase rather, that maybe isn't one of the big names, like isn't a Nick Chubb, isn't a Baker Mayfield, that you think could be the X factor in the difference maker in this game coming up?
You know, I don't know in terms of big names where this guy would rank, but he's somebody I have really gone to bat for many, many times, and he has let me down, quite honestly. But Mac Wilson is a guy, if he could do something in this game, I think that would be absolutely huge. We've seen Taki make some plays. I would really like to see Mac Wilson step up and have a kind of breakout game. You go, whoa, where the heck was this all year? Because that's not something I think coming into this game anybody is planning on seeing a whole lot of Mac Wilson. And if he could do something in this game, if he can really provide a spark at that second level for this defense, I think that would be huge.
My opinion, an X factor, and you're not wrong there, because you would look at the linebacker play we've had this year. You know, outside of B.J. Goodson and an up-and-coming Jacob Phillips, we really haven't had consistent quality linebacker play. So it's time for a guy like Mac Wilson.
And you're putting it kindly. You're putting it kindly, quite honestly. You know, really, if it wasn't for Goodson, I mean, thank God we got his veteran presence on this linebacking core, because outside of that, it has been hit and miss from that core, and we're going to need them to show up at the second level.
Not kidding. But I would say this. I think this is a game that you talk about the weapons that Baker throws to, and Hooper and Landry, they've been huge and clutch down the stretch.
Right.
But this, to me, feels like a game that even if it's not to remain on the team, but if this guy wants to make a statement to the league, for David Njoku to go out and just have a career game, he's a physical freak. He is so big, he's so strong, so quick, but it just seems like he just has these mental lapses, and he hasn't been able to have that breakout game yet with the Browns. And what a better time than to add another dimension to the offense that's already been playing tremendously the past 6 weeks, really all season, but the past 6 weeks. A guy like him that could go in and just disrupt that back end of that secondary, creating mismatches between some of these corners. Because let's just be honest, Kansas City secondary, they don't, other than Tyrann Mathieu, they don't have a big name star like some of these other teams in the playoffs. And so if you could get another guy out there who can just win one-on-one, back shoulder fades around the red zone, a guy like that, I think it'd be huge for the Browns.
I'll tell you, I wish Drew Rosenhaus had stayed away from him in the offseason. He's one of those guys who just off the field never seems to get it all together mentally so that he can perform on the field. I think he's always worried that he's not getting his, and he's not getting respect, and he's not getting money. And so he goes in the offseason and he gets Drew Rosenhaus. And I think that spilled over onto the field, because I'm with you. David Njoku has been one of those guys I've said since we've originally drafted him that, boy, this guy has got everything. He checks every single box. This is a guy who could play in this league at a very, very high level. He should be a Pro Bowler every year. He should be an All-Pro every year. And for some reason, he plays himself into places where he's not given the opportunity to. You know, we had to get Hooper in the offseason because he's been so inconsistent. So he's played himself behind that 8 ball. And I'm with you. You know, Stefanski loves to have multiple tight ends get into the mix. We've seen that consistently this year. We saw it in Minnesota, and I would love nothing more than to have Njoku go off big, because if you're throwing to Njoku, it's a lower risk pass generally. And on top of that, he's going to be able to move with the ball. So I think your offense does a lot better if you've got guys like David Njoku making big plays for you.
Justin, go ahead. Ask anything.
Well, I just wanted to point out, to your point last week, you were saying, you know, some of these guys are going to have a good game against the Steelers. And to your credit, Porter Gustin had a huge play in that game. And I would still, man, for as much crap as we give Sendejo, I wish he could do something to come up big in this game. But
I was wondering if he would come up when you bring it up.
We've just buried him nonstop this year.
And so is everybody else, right? I mean, it would be so fitting for him to do kind of like he did in the Steelers game, where he comes up with a big interception or something to seal the deal on this thing. That would be a very Browns-esque way to put a bow on this thing. But yeah, you know, it's been so frustrating. It's been maddening watching that guy all season. It really has. And hopefully he's going to need to play well. If he's out there, he's going to need to be playing well. We got everybody on the defense. There's no real superstars right now. I'd argue, with Myles Garrett not playing up at 100%. So everybody's going to have to chip in.
Well, I think it's huge, though, that we do get Denzel Ward back, because we're going to well, it's going to be easier said than done, but Tyreek Hill, I know he's not the biggest guy. He's not built like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, but man, talk about a track star on the football field. That man can beat anyone. He just straight up, I'm going to beat you down the field. So we're going to need somebody like Denzel. He's going to have himself a huge, huge challenge tomorrow. But then after that, we're going to need
he's
somebody.
Going to have to play at a high level. I'm not one of those that believes, oh, Denzel Ward's back, check the box, we're set. Right. No, we've seen Denzel be up and down just like everybody else on that defense. So he's going to have to be playing at the very top of his game. And that's, you know, after having time off, that's a tall order. So Denzel better be coming ready to play tomorrow.
And I did see, though, that Denzel, he said in his press conference that he was having symptoms, kind of like how Myles had. He had a lot of the symptoms. So let's just hope that he isn't Myles.
Concern you? Because that certainly concerns me. When I saw those comments, and I'm thinking, boy, everybody was writing this off as, when a player gets it, it's like, okay, this is just, you know, going through the routine. You're going to have to take the time off, then they get back and they're going to be ready to go. We saw with Myles Garrett, and I think it's going to come out later on, that this really tore him up even worse than's come out at this point. I really do. You see a guy who's at the absolute top of his physical, his physical well-being in his life, get sidelined quite literally. And it's amazing to me to think of what it's done to him and his performance on the field and everything. I hope he's okay long term. I hope he doesn't have any long-term symptoms that continue to linger from this thing, because that's scary. That's scary for guys like me, who's 40 years old, who is nowhere near at the very top of my physical prowess out there. Should I happen to get it, I'm in deep trouble compared to a guy like that. So, and then you talk about Denzel Ward. I'm sure there's going to be things that come out afterwards of how bad this stuff is, because in season, you don't want to really let your hand out there. So hopefully these guys are going to be ready for Sunday. Hopefully their bodies cooperate, because I really feel for guys in the middle of a pandemic having to go through something like that.
And not to mention Sendejo had it, and if he was bad then, imagine him after COVID still feeling some effects.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I know you're we'll transition just a little bit. I know you're the biggest Browns fan probably in Northeast Ohio. I see the shirt, the hat.
I wouldn't say that, first of all. But I would like to say that I'm a huge Browns fan. I'm a lifelong Browns fan. But I'm also a fairly sarcastic Browns fan. I treat the Browns kind of like a member of the family, right? It's not like something that I live and die for the Cleveland Browns. It's like the Browns are there, and I am there every Sunday with them. And I'm either going to be loving them or I'm going to be hating them every Sunday. And that's exactly the way I treat my family. So I'd say the Browns are more family to me than me being the biggest fan in the world.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I've never thought about that. Well, all right. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you've been keeping up a whole lot with the Cavs, but obviously that big
Little
trade.
bit. We beat New York last night.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've
Andre
got,
Drummond played like
we've got
Shaquille O'Neal.
50 Yeah, we got like 50 centers on the team. So Andre Drummond said, "Hey, wait a second. Remember, I'm still here. You guys got me last year. I'm going to show you guys some things tonight." So he had his little Jordan moment that he felt disrespected, and he showed up against New York. So that was a thing of beauty. This is one of those Cavs teams, and we've seen it here in the last couple of years, that for Bickerstaff, they'll play. Right? I mean, they're young and they're fiery and they'll play. And it doesn't matter who's out on the court, whether you got Garland, whether you got Sexton, they're going to go out and play with whoever they brought that particular evening. And they're going to play pretty hard. They're not the greatest team in the world. They're going to get thumped by the really good teams, but I know that they're going to give an honest effort every single night. And at this point in their development, that's about all you can ask for, in my opinion.
And it's unfortunate, when we talked to a few weeks ago, we had Andy Baskin on here, and we were talking. He, for his show, they've just been talking nonstop about the Browns. It was their playoff push. Of course, fans were really, fired up about trying to make the playoffs concern, all that business. But the Cavs kind of just get pushed to the side, and so it was a good chance for him to talk about the Cavs. And one of the things that he was saying was, this Cavs team, they can be a team that can maybe sneak into the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And I don't know what your thoughts. I mean, I know it's still early on. We made the trade we were involved in the trade, get Jared Allen, another big foot on the team, and Taurean Prince, former first-round pick. But
Right.
Do you think this Cavs team, with the roster they have now, and they get some of those other guys back, like Porter Jr. and Dellavedova will finally hopefully make his debut? That's, by the way, Justin's favorite player. But
what's up with him, Justin? Where's Delly?
I have no clue, honestly. Is he hurt or something?
I think he had like an ankle or something.
Yeah. And that's it. Then there's been like no news on him, at all. Like I understand
with
the
Greedy
Porter
Williams
situation, and I understand the lack of news there, but I do not understand the Delhi situation. It's kind of going into that Njoku world where we lost Njoku last year for a few weeks. It's like, what's going on? I don't know. It's kind of a similar thing with Delhi. I'm sure he's hurt. He's a guy who's all fire and everything else, but it seems weird to me that we don't hear more about what's going on with Dellavedova.
Good thing we didn't spend a first-round pick on Delhi, but anyway, do you think this Cavs team could make? I'm not going to say make a run in the playoffs, but do you think they could at least make the playoffs with the roster they have this year?
Let me answer that question with a question. Do you think it would be good for the Cavs to make the playoffs this year? That's always the question that I always wonder when you're in the NBA and you're one of those middle teams, right? And it's like, do I want to make the playoffs? Do I want to go into the lottery? Where are we at in our team's, progression? So, I guess it would be fun to make the playoffs. Like you said, we've got no shot in the playoffs. Let's be realistic. Or is it better to fall back in the lottery, take our chances? I know the lottery's changed over the years, but that there's always that back and forth with the NBA. You really need to have a star that's just, a generational type of star to really win. We haven't seen anybody else win with the exception of what? Detroit back in the day. I don't know. Everybody else has got like a transcendental star, and I don't know that we have anybody on that team on our team right now who would fit that mold. So, sure. I mean, quick answer: to see the Cavs in the playoffs, that would be fun. I would have fun with it, right? But in terms of longer term, I don't know whether it's the best thing for us right now.
Well, and I would say this, the Miami Heat last year, I don't know how you would classify Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler, he's an all-star. He's a great player. Yeah. But in terms of him being this generational star, he's really I don't think he is. He's not a Kevin Durant. He's not LeBron. He's not anything like that. So, but it was Jimmy Butler and then a bunch of guys who were really solid role players. And then they had a little complimentary piece in Bam Adebayo. But, this Cavs team, you look at it, Drummond's the centerpiece. He's their best player. Mm-hmm. And then you have a bunch of young role players. Sexton's had a nice third year. He's actually playing almost like an all-star this season. Darius Garland's making improvements. Chetty Osman's He's either really hot or really cold
I
shooting
was
the
going to
three.
say he's the most up and down. You either get bad Jetty or good Jetty.
Yeah. And then if he'd ever get healthy again, Kevin Love could be a complimentary piece at this stage of his career, but I don't expect him to be on the team
He
after
needs
the
to be
trade deadline.
complimentary to some other team at this
Yeah,
point.
you're not
We need
kidding.
to trade him, get whatever we can for him. I mean, love Kevin Love. Obviously, he brought us a championship, right? So I'm not saying that flippantly that we need to get rid of this guy. It's just it's time to see what kind of value we can get out of the guy. I mean, but you just can't have a veteran like that sitting on our roster at this point.
Right. And we're paying that man $120 million, and he's just not playing like that money anymore. And it's not, it's part of its injury.
Poor
But
guy, see him run. He looks like a YMCA. Like he looks like a dad out there, man. I feel for the guy. I mean, he really does. And it's like, oh boy, I don't know that he can help outside of veteran leadership on this team right now. And maybe we could get some value for him. I don't know. Maybe make a flyer with a draft pick somewhere or something. But yeah, I don't think Kevin Love really fits our long-term plan at this point.
Yeah, we'll see though. They're going to be off for a couple games. Washington, because what else is going wrong in the nation's capital? They're dealing with a COVID issue in their locker room. So our next game's going to be Wednesday. We welcome the Brooklyn Nets to town. We get our shot at Kevin Durant and Harden and maybe Kyrie Irving if he ever decides he wants to play basketball again. But,
how about that situation? Pretty wild. I think we play them back to back too, don't we?
Yeah,
something
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we get like a week off as our mini All-Star break for some reason.
So we might get Zoom Kyrie one game and then Microsoft Teams Kyrie the next game.
There you go.
WebEx Kyrie for a night or something. I don't know. But anyway, Justin, go ahead. Ask anything. I hope you don't mind, Chris. You're hanging around for a little bit. We'll just ask you a few more things. We don't want to keep you waiting. I know there's probably Packers, Rams, and your TV getting ready to watch. I know.
That's right. A little bit of other playoff action.
Oh, yeah. Get to survey who the Browns will play in the Super Bowl, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
you got to do advanced scouting on these things.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, go ahead, Justin. Ask anything.
So going back to the Steelers a little bit, I don't know about you, but they're talking about Big Ben retiring. Maybe not. I want him to come back because I don't think he'll be very good next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, it's the same thing as Harbaugh up there in Michigan. It's like, stick around, stay there. That's fine with me. You're only bringing things down, and that's exactly what Ben's going to do. And the beauty thing about Ben is either way, he's going to take a cap hit. The Steelers going to take a cap hit for him. So it's fantastic to see a guy go out that way and really drag the team down with him on the way out. Because Ben's not going to do anything charitable back toward the organization like a lot of guys would to help them out in that situation. So I think it's fantastic. I think that Steelers fans that are actually, realistic about things have got to look at the team right now and say, we're in for some hard times. We are in for some hard times for several years before we're going to be able to turn this thing around, because once they start losing, they're going to start looking at their head coach, and they already are looking at their head coach, Mike Tomlin, and saying, I don't know if this is the guy anymore. And they're going to get rid of him. They're not going to be able to find a quarterback right off the bat. So we in Cleveland are well aware of those two cycles of head coaches and quarterbacks. And now Pittsburgh is going to get a feel for it, because I think they're going to start down both of those cycles. A lot of times it takes more than one time around, as we know. I know the Steelers have been very lucky in at head coach. They've only had a few in their entire existence. We'll see how that ends up. But most people don't remember at quarterback the Bubby Brister years and the problems that the Steelers have had for years and years before Ben came around. So as much as they think they could just flip a switch, turn things around there in Pittsburgh, I think that they're in for a long haul.
I just found it amazing that because of one game, we made Big Ben cry.
Right.
We caused Randy Fichtner his job, Marquise Pouncey to retire, and Chase Claypool to become the most hated man in the city of Cleveland. Incredible. Well, Juju might have
Juju.
We'll see if he's even a Steeler after this season. He may want to go and improve his TikTok dancing in New York or something like that. Who knows? But
I always love the fact the Browns are always ripped on, and they say, why don't you be more like, look at in your own division, how just the Steelers, how they handled things and the kind of class they've got. And then the way that they melted down in this playoff was just fantastic. It was like a chef's kiss to see exactly what the Steelers had done as they have wide receivers running their mouths and their quarterbacks crying on the bench. I mean, this is fantastic when everyone has held them up as the model organization in the AFC North. To see that kind of a meltdown was just fantastic.
Fantastic. And you know, it's so satisfying because I've never seen a Browns team be able to dominate a Pittsburgh team like that in my whole life for 60 minutes. And it was just so refreshing. And we deserve, I don't care what Juju, what Chase, what any Pittsburgh fan says, we deserve to be able to be a little arrogant for a little while. I mean, we have been the dumpster fire of the NFL for too long. It's our turn to be a little bit cocky and say, hey, we're one of the best teams in the AFC. It's our turn.
Yeah, screw them. Anybody who's saying that, just screw them. I mean, most people who have any kind of a perspective on football, on life, on anything, if they aren't a fan of like the Steelers or this week Kansas City, they should be pulling for the Cleveland Browns, right? I mean, we are the ultimate underdogs. We are underdogs in a city that absolutely loves football more than anything else. I tell this, everybody's like, well, you had a Cavs championship a few years ago. Yeah, that's great. I'm not trading away a Cavs victory. You had the Indians in the World Series. Yeah, that's great. We have had some success in other sports. You don't understand the passion in Cleveland for football is so much higher than what it is for those other sports. So to have a team that has been this bad for this long, and before that be totally gone for a few years, and then to have that team in the playoffs get a little bit of success, yeah, it's okay if we walk around with our chest out a little bit right now.
Right.
The Cleveland Browns are back. We're building something, and unlike the other time that we were in the playoffs and we played the Steelers and ultimately lost to them, that was a team that wasn't really building. You could tell that what the Browns have right now is building towards something, and that's the kind of hope that is great to see around this town again.
So, Justin, do you have anything else to ask? I'm going to ask him like one more thing.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, it seems like whenever I'm watching a Browns game or something and a notable play happens, I just go over to Twitter and I see you've already made a meme about the previous play somehow. So how do you make your memes so quickly? Do you do all that? Or are you just in tune with the game?
Short answer, I have no life. How about that? No. Some of the stuff I have kind of an idea of what I want to do because, having watched as much Cleveland Browns football as I have over the years, you get an idea of the way the game is going to go. And you usually have a few things kind of queued up in your mind that like, hey, this would work here. This would work there. And it's funny because a lot of times those things happen. You got it queued up and you say, oh my gosh, that did happen. And then you're all set. Sometimes there's just memes that are popular at the time. And you have those kind of in the back of your mind. And you say, okay, if something happens here, I'll have that ready. And other times it's just me reacting very genuinely. And that happens more often than probably the other two, where it's just like, holy crap, that just happened. That reminds me of this. Boom, I pull it up and I throw it out there. I don't know. That's kind of the way my mind works, where everybody else is their first instinct when something happens is to go find somebody, hug them, give them a high five, or if it's a bad play, go grab another drink or go cry in their beer. My first instinct is like, oh, I got a meme for this, which I don't know what that says about me. I'm sure it's not very positive, but that's kind of the way that it happens.
Well, I tell you what, I laugh after almost everything you post. I just bust out laughing because I understand your sense of humor a lot. So being a relatable Cleveland fan, but just in general, I think it's very,
it's
dry,
all
sarcastic humor is hilarious.
Yeah, it's dry, sarcastic. It's ironic a lot of times. And that's what I've grown up with. I mean, that's the way it is. When you treat the Cleveland Browns like they're a member of the family, you get it. Because that's the way I treat my family. I treat the Browns the same way. And so that's what you see spill over onto Twitter.
Right.
And I got to say, even in the times of COVID, my favorite meme of yours is the the Cavs victory parade meme that you've rebranded into some different COVID memes. Those are hilarious, I gotta say.
People either love those or absolutely hate those. Oh my God. I get more people. Well, obviously
Some people
Twitter
think it's
hates
real.
those because last time I went to jail, the last time I put it up there, I was in Twitter jail for 3 days. They didn't quite see the humor in it. Even though the local Cuyahoga County voting board, the board of elections down there, they actually liked the tweet when I made it about how everybody's floating downtown for election day and everything else. They liked it, but Twitter did not. And that got me 3 days in timeout. So yeah, it's funny. It's so divisive. Just like the parade itself, like the 0-16 parade was so divisive in Cleveland. Same thing is with that meme. That's become very cliche, and people have very strong opinions about whenever I put that out there. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't when I take advantage of it. But I always have people asking for it. If there's any kind of an event that would draw any kind of people anywhere in the world, somebody's going to be tweeting at me going, "Hey, I heard that there's a huge gathering here. You got anything for that?" It's like, oh.
And some people like nationally around the country like look at that and be like, "Is this for real?" And they just don't get it.
Oh yeah. That's where it originally started. Was I had so many pundits, and they were right-wing pundits who put it up on their websites, who were very proud of it, saying, "Look at how many people Trump had brought." And then, of course, the joke was on them because
March to end COVID.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. I don't want to keep you waiting too much longer. I know you're a football fan. I want to get you to watch the game, so I'm going to do real quick. We're going to go through each game. You're going to give me your score prediction. All right.
Oh man, you guys are killing me here. Okay. I had made
Rams,
my
Packers
before, so we'll see if these are going to be consistent with those. You want to score as well?
if you want, unless you just want to do a team. It doesn't matter to me.
Just do picks, and then like if they cover or not.
Do you have the spread? Yeah, give me the spread on the game.
I can pull up
six and a half is the Rams, Packers.
Packers favored, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, give me the Packers, and the Packers are going to cover.
I agree.
I agree. How about the nightcap of tonight? This is, in my opinion, maybe the best game of the four. Ravens and Bills. Bills favored by 2.
Yeah, so this is my upset special. I think the Ravens are going to win. I really
agree.
do. And that's going with my head more than my heart, because I want to see the Bills win. I really want to see the Bills win. They are a fan base that's a lot like ours. You know, they supported the hell out of us when we didn't have a team here. You know, they don't have a sense of style like us. They wear Zumba pants, and they love to beat up. They love to just kill it in pregame tailgates and kill their tables and bust up tables. And I just totally get that whole thing. So I'm pulling for the Bills, but I just have this weird feeling that the Ravens are going to win this ball game.
Yeah. And talk about another franchise that's had to deal with a lot of torment. I mean, they had to go through the Tom Brady era and just be second fiddle to them all the time.
That's right.
Oh yeah. They lost 4 Super Bowls in a row.
They lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. I can't. First of all, I mean, we have the pain of never making the Super Bowl because of the drive and the fumble. But good Lord, I mean, going there and losing 4 straight times, that just, man.
Now, I'll always remember with the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, the Clay Matthews of the Browns picking off Jim Kelly to seal the deal back in the late 80s in one of our playoff runs. So that's always a good time to think back to. And that was kind of this cold, snowy day at Municipal. So yeah, but those are good battles with us and the Bills back in the day. Jim Kelly versus Bernie Kosar.
Before we'll do the Browns last, tomorrow night, Brady versus Breeze for one last time. Bucks and Saints, I believe. What's the line on that, Justin? I don't exactly know.
-3 Saints.
Saints by 3.
It's going to be that's going to be another close one. I think I'm going to take the Saints in that game, but my confidence level is low on that one. I think there's a lot of momentum towards Tom Brady, and there always is, unfortunately. But I'm going to go Drew Brees in the game that should be on the History Channel. Drew Brees and Tom Brady. I'm going to go Drew Brees.
And I like that the picture that Tom replied to him and the old 80-year-old man beard and Drew all wrinkly, and that made me laugh.
Perfect.
Made me think of you when I saw that.
It's perfect. That was a well done meme by whoever did it.
Again. And then of course the last one, Our Brownies going to Arrowhead, taking on the defending champs, Chiefs, favored by 10 points. Do you think the Browns pull off the monumental upset?
Yeah, I've been picking them all week. Why not? I mean, I'm not going to be the one to pick against the Browns now. I picked them against the Steelers. That worked out okay, so I'm not going to change it. That's purely a heart pick. My head says there's no way the Cleveland Browns can win this game. My heart says, you know what? We've got the momentum. Why not? There aren't going to be, I don't think there's going to be fans there at all, from what I understand. And if there aren't going to be many in a place like Arrowhead, which is traditionally very, very hard to play in, but without all the fans there, then it's not going to be nearly as hard. So I give our guys a fighting shot. And I think ultimately Parkey's going to donk one in and we're going to end up winning this game. How about that?
He'll double doink one in instead of out.
Double doink one in. Why not?
I said last week, if it comes down to Cody Parkey, we're going to lose this game. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think
any rational human being would agree with you on that.
Hey, you know what? I've stuck by Cody Parkey's side all season long. Even when he had the stretch where he was missing a lot of kicks, I stuck by his side. And I think I still have faith in him if it comes down to a field goal to win it.
You and his family. Those are the only two people.
Hey, I'd rather, you know what? Because you know what that means? That means when he makes the kick, I'll be so much happier, and I can be the one with my chest out and say, yes, I was right.
Buy that authentic Cody Parkey jersey for next season.
I'm going to buy, you know what? I have an old Johnny Manziel jersey that I taped the Zell part, so it just says man number 2. I'm just going to redo the whole thing. I'll make it Cody Parkey and put Parkey in the back. Oh, yeah. Let's do it. We'll re-sign him, give him a 3-year deal. Let's do it.
Why not? Start spending that cap money on your kickers.
Oh, yeah.
Right. No linebackers, no safeties, no corners. No. Kicker. Franchise kicker.
Teams is important, man.
He makes one kick in the playoffs. Lock him up long term.
He's better than Greg Joseph and Austin Seibert. So I'd rather have him over those two.
He's better than Phil Dawson today.
Yeah.
Anything else, Justin?
No, not really.
No? Well, then, Chris, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us for this episode. Enjoy the football this weekend. Enjoy the Browns. Hopefully they can pull off the upset, and we're looking forward to seeing what comes out next out of your Twitter page.
I appreciate it, guys. This was a lot of fun, and go Browns.
Go Browns. Take care. Stay safe.